In this section, we're going to be playing some Latin rhythms. And I'm going to play the rhythms separately, and then we'll play them in some exercises. This first rhythm is a bossa nova rhythm. It's used to play in 4/4 time. And remember that when you're playing a Latin rhythm, not to swing the eighth notes. Now I'm going to be playing this bossa nova, this particular style, with my fingers of my right hand rather than using a pick. Now the way the bossa nova pattern is written, the letter P represents pick, and that will mean to pick the lowest note of the chord, the lowest note that is strummed, usually the root of the chord, with your thumb. And then when the strum happens, do the strum with the first 3 fingers of the right hand and play them together, either on strings 1, 2, and 3, or 2, 3, and 4. Usually it's played on the inside of the strings. So a strum would involve simply pulling 3 fingers at the same time. So if you see a pick strum, it would be this. Now this is bossa nova pattern number 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I played the pattern 2 times, and I'll do that through each one of these Latin rhythms. Latin rhythm number 2 is another bossa nova. 2, 3, 4. Number 3 is a bossa nova, and this can be played with a pick, or the strum can be done with the right hand. So I'm going to be holding a C major 7, playing bossa nova number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the samba, you'll notice, has some dead strums. Now this is done by taking the fingers of the left hand and lifting them off the strings, not completely, but just releasing the pressure so the fingers still touch the strings, but the strings are heard with a dead sound. So the clean sound is this, and a dead sound like this with just touching the strings. This is a samba, usually done with a fast tempo for 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another way to play a samba is Latin rhythm number 5 from the book. This samba is, again, using a pick. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is Latin rhythm number 6, which is another way to play the samba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 7 is still another way to play the samba. Again, I'll be playing an A minor 7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 8, another samba. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 9 is a rumba. Again, I'll be playing the A minor 7 chord. Be careful of where the accents are placed on beat 1, beat 2 and beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 10, a tango. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice in that tango on beat number 4 and, there's a tremolo strum, or it could be done with a slow strum as well. The tremolo strum is just a very quick down, up, down. Play number 10 again with that down, up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 11, a begin. On this, I'll be playing an A major 7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 12, a conga. I'll play the A minor 7 chord on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 13, a bolero. I'll be playing an A major 7 chord on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 14, a mambo. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 1. Now I'm going to play some exercises using these Latin rhythms. Exercise number 150 uses the bossa nova. It uses pattern number 1. Exercise number 151 is another bossa nova. This uses pattern number 2 of the Latin rhythms that we played. This is exercise number 152, which is a samba, uses Latin rhythm number 4 that we played earlier. Next, we're going to learn some modes. Now, a mode is a type of scale, and the different modes come from the major scale, so it's important that you understand those major scales in order to understand how modes work. The Dorian mode is a major scale beginning on the 2nd degree. So in other words, if you were to play D Dorian, it would contain the same notes as a C major scale, only it would start on D and would go up to D. Now I'm going to show you some of the fingerings that are commonly used for the Dorian mode. This first one has its root on the 6th string, begins with the 1st finger, like this. And beyond the octave, with those 2 notes. The Dorian mode with the root on the 5th string, one fingering would be done like this, beginning with the 1st finger on the 5th string. One of the uses of the Dorian mode is to use it to improvise around minor chords, minor type chords. For example, if I had a long vamp over an A minor 7 chord, I could play A Dorian for the solo. This next example uses the Dorian mode. And this uses the D Dorian mode. So I'm going to be using the Dorian mode, which is based with the root on the 5th string with the 1st finger. Now halfway through, or about 8 bars into this solo, it will go to E flat minor 7, so I'll use E flat Dorian, and then it goes back again to D minor, so I'll use D Dorian. So you can see that for every minor chord, I would have to change the Dorian mode that I used. For example, if the chords went to B minor 7, I would have to play B Dorian. And if it changed to C minor 7, I would have to play C Dorian. So this is example number 156, starts out using the D Dorian mode. The Dorian mode can also be used over a minor chord going to a major chord, and when those chords are a fourth apart. For example, over A minor 7 to D, you could play the A Dorian mode. This next example does just that. Exercise number 157, the progression is A minor 7 to D, and I'll be using the A Dorian mode. The Mixolydian mode is a major scale beginning on the 5th degree. In other words, E Mixolydian would contain the same notes as an A major scale. Now, another way to find the Mixolydian mode, which might be easier for you, would be to play a major scale and lower the 7th degree. For example, you could play a C scale and lower the 7th degree and play it here, and that would be the C Mixolydian mode. I'm going to show you some fingerings for the Mixolydian mode which are fairly common. The first one starts with the root on the 6th string with the 2nd finger. This would be the G Mixolydian mode. That last note if you go beyond the octave. And the C Mixolydian mode beginning with the root on the 5th string with the 2nd finger. And because the Mixolydian mode contains a flat 7th in it, it's a very common and a very good practice to use the Mixolydian mode against 7th chords. So it's a good scale to use, or a good mode to use against the blues. Now, if I'm playing blues in the key of G, over the G7 chord, I would play G Mixolydian. Over the C7 chord, I'll play C Mixolydian. And over the D7 chord, I'll use the notes in the D Mixolydian mode. So you can see that unlike the blues scale, where I could play the same scale through the entire progression, if I'm using the Mixolydian mode, I have to change the Mixolydian mode that I use every time that the chord changes. So this is exercise number 161, a blues in the key of G, using Mixolydian modes. By combining the modes and the scales we've learned so far, you can play over chord progressions and play over the chord changes. You remember that with the D Dorian, or with the Dorian mode, rather, that you can play over minor type chords. And the Mixolydian mode is used over 7th chords, and the major scale is used over major type chords. So if I have a chord progression using those chords, by combining the modes and the scales, I should be able to play a solo. This next progression, this next example, number 165, uses the progression which contains an E minor 7 chord, and then to an A7, and then to a D major 7 at the first. Now over the E minor 7 chord, I'll be playing the E Dorian mode. Over the A7, I'll be playing the A Mixolydian mode, and over the D major 7 chord, I'll be playing the D major scale, or sometimes referred to as the D Ionian mode. And then as the song continues, over the minor 7s, I'll be using the Dorian, over the 7s, Mixolydian, and over the major chords, the major scale. So this is number 165, exercise 165, which combines the modes together. Another way of improvising over the chord changes is to play the major scale of the key you're in. For example, in measure 169, the progression starts off with D minor 7, G7 to C major 7. All of those chords are in the key of C, so the improvisation and all of the notes I use for the solo in that section will come from the C scale. Then when it changes on the second part of the exercise and goes to a C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, that section is in the key B flat. So then I'll change and use the B flat major scale over the top of that part of the progression. Exercise number 169. This next progression is in the key of A minor, and although there are other chords besides the A minor being played, they are all from the key of A minor. So the scale that I'm going to be using is the A harmonic minor over the entire progression. The Lydian mode is a major scale beginning on the 4th degree. In other words, C Lydian would contain the same notes as a G major scale. Now another way to find the Lydian mode would be to play the major scale and raise the 4th step 1/2 step. So in the C Lydian it would be like the C major scale, except it would have an F sharp rather than an F natural. Let me show you some fingerings that are common for the Lydian mode. The first is the Lydian mode beginning on the 6th string with the 2nd finger. This next pattern is the Lydian mode beginning with the root on the 5th string, 2nd finger. The Lydian mode can be used with major and major type chords. It sounds particularly good against a major 7 sharp 11 chord. This next progression, number 179, is in the key of C, and I'll be using the C Lydian mode over the C major 7 chord. The Aeolian mode is a major scale beginning on the 6th degree. In other words, the A Aeolian contains the same notes as the C major scale. Now another way to think of the Aeolian mode is just think of the natural minor scale because they are the same. Let me show you a couple of fingerings for the Aeolian mode. The first has the root on the 6th string and is played like this. With the root on the 5th string, the Aeolian mode would sound like this, beginning with the 5th string, 1st finger. The Aeolian mode is used against minor and minor type chords. In exercise number 182, the chord progression starts off with the D minor 7 chord, and the scale that's used for the improvisation is the D Aeolian mode. Phrygian mode is the same as the major scale beginning on the 3rd degree. So in other words, if you were playing E Phrygian would contain the same notes as the C major scale. I'm going to play some common fingerings for the Phrygian mode for you. This first has the root on the 6th string beginning with the 1st finger, and it's played like this. The Phrygian mode with the root on the 5th string is played like this. Now, like the Dorian mode, the Phrygian mode is used against minor chords, but it's particularly effective if you have a minor chord going to a major 7 chord, which is 1/2 step higher. In exercise 184, the chords are A minor 7 to B flat major 7, and the Phrygian mode is used. In this case, A Phrygian over the A minor 7 chord. Locrian mode contains the same notes as the major scale beginning on the 7th degree. In other words, B Locrian contains the same notes as a C major scale. I'll show you some fingerings for the Locrian mode. This first one has the root on the 6th string with the first finger, played like this. With the root on the 5th string, the pattern is like this. The place to use the Locrian mode is over a minor 7 flat 5 chord. So for example, if you're playing in a progression and the chord is B minor 7 flat 5, play the B Locrian mode over that chord. In example number 187, the second chord in the progression is a B minor 7 flat 5, and I'll be using the B Locrian mode over that chord.